Hello there, and welcome to Ancient Theories channel. Okay, so you may wonder how those vases in diorite and granite were made. And you may also wonder how precise those vessels are and when they were made in late Bronze Age, maybe sooner, maybe in Neolith. And this is bugging me for quite a while, so I did a few experiments and find some data, and I told you that they used aggressive values. So there was a lot of comments here and there, and I took my time, done some research and some experiments. I even showed you some of them, like creating powder from corundum and creating some, tweaking it, circle in the beeswax, all of that. And I think I actually know how they made those. You see, there is this assumption that those vases are a mystery because they are made of hard stone. And there is mystery because they are very precise. And there is mystery of mathematic design, and there is mystery of some sort of titanium and ion in electron microscopy tests. So there we have four main problems here, four mysteries, and to be honest, there is no mystery here. So, again, hard stone, hardness of the stone, perfection in precision, okay? The titanium and ion in pure elemental form in those inclusion in under Microsoft electron microscopy, and the math used to design those. Those are the four mysteries we are doing with about those vases. Okay, so let's talk about each of them. First off, the hard stone vases are made from hard stone, so it is quite hard to carve in those stones, right? Yes, but actually no. Okay, I will just go and grab my coffee notes, and I will be right back. Okay, I am back because, I can just grab this video. Okay, listen, with abrasive powders, there is nothing like hard or soft, and if I have abrasive powder, like corundum powder, I can easily scratch some quartz in granite or diorite. And I showed you this in my video about corundum crystals. And if I can just do this with powder, I can use some water or oil to create this paste and use this to polish stone or carve stone. I don't really care if it's granite stone or some kind of zirconium crystal, malachite or zitron. Citrine, sapphire is pretty hard because it's corundum crystal, but it's okay to carve in those. But my main question was, okay, those vases can show us that in quartz crystals, in the micro quartz crystal in these grind vases are cut through. So my guess was, okay, they need some abrasive powders, and there is evidence they used abrasive powders, and I showed you this in mine, well, really not last, few years ago. So they used abrasive powders, and those abrasive powders contains a lot of corundum. So the hardness of this stone isn't the necessary challenge for ancient people, because they can create those abrasive powders, because you can create those with bashing corundum crystals against each other, and you can create this corundum dust powder, and you can use some oil, mix this with this corundum powder, and you can apply abrasive solution and carve in the life or grind. It's okay. But one thing is polishing stone to a certain degree, but they carved precision with those abrasive powders. So how to make those vases such precise, and we can just measure it in microns. Okay, that's second mystery, precision. And the precision is quite good, and we have found two classes of those vases, precise class and imprecise class. And about those, you see, the data we have is a little bit fuzzy here. We know about those imprecise classes of vases. It's clear that those were made with primitive tools, because the precision in those are less than 25 microns. Precision is less, so we find errors or faulty or 50 microns in those. Maybe some have, we're lucky, 35 microns of error, and we can just deliver those products with basic tools, with some masonry skills and abrasive powders, even made with quartz. We don't need to cut through microscopic quartz crystals to get this precision. We can use simple techniques like cutting with bronze tools and abrasive powders. That's okay. But we have also second class, and this second class of precision is enigmatic one, because to deliver such precise artifacts, we would need more advanced kills. And some people suggested that to get those 5 or 4 microns of precision, we would need CNC with 5 axes and diamond tipped tool, carving tool, and that's okay. But I'm a little bit skeptic now, because the most of those vessels in this class show us about 20 microns of precision. And we cannot be sure, because there's actually only 1 or 2 guys in the world who deliver us this measurement, and we should measure it again and again to make sure it's 4 microns, okay? And with photogrammetry, we have this error of plus or minus 10 microns. So it's maybe 14 microns of error, which is still pretty amazing, but maybe it's 16 or 18 microns of precision. And with those 18 microns of precision, we are getting in this region of skill and luck combined in process of making this vase. Okay, so I am just going with, okay, they are precise because some mason was lucky enough. No, he was not lucky enough. You see, I have even carved a circle myself and measured it, and it was less than 20 microns of error in beeswax with simple metals. And if I would like to carve those perfect vases, I would use those copper or bronze rings to measure with, and use some light to put it, like light source, to measure if those rings are tightly around my vase I am working on. And I would try again and again and again, and this process would take me years. But with abrasive powders and simple tools like wheel stones and bronze drills, and I can get crazy here with these bronze drills designs, and I can cut them in different shapes and create some different techniques for tubular drills, for core drills, and create those awesome rotary movements of those drills. And after that, with abrasive powders, it will look like I am doing pretty good job of making a vase. And the vase with corundum powder in the same size of grains, which we know that they had some sort of system of measuring or collecting those grains in the same size, because we found those grains have similar sizes in the paste, so they can just use some really small grains of corundum powder to infuse this with the bronze tools in the process of drilling. Not infuse in heat process like smelting bronze with corundum powder. We do this later, but I think it's unnecessary to do so. You can just use powder or corundum powder and bronze tools, bronze drills, and deliver pretty good effect in the end. And if you measure it with your bronze discs or bronze circles made by your designing beeswax design in any other material, and you smelt those bronze measuring rings, and you can use light source in dark room to check if your vase is truly well done, you will get about 20, maybe around 20 microns of error, because your rings will be better than 20 microns of error. And you can also find some pretty awesome techniques of core drilling with bronze or with plastic tubes and abrasive alders. And you will get those cores you are referring to, Petri core and also so on. Depending on the grains, the size of the grains in abrasive powder, you will get or don't get those marks on Petri cores. And when I'm talking about those drills can be like in other sizes. And with other sizes of those drills, you will get some patterns like you'll get in our drills, because our drills have some regular sizes. It's the same. People do regular stuff regularly, okay? Okay. So about the precision, I am going with, we have precise class of vessels, but not as precise as it's sold to me in the first place. We should measure it again. And we can also say they used to measure the work with precision circles made by simple sacred geometry. Okay, here is your map. And with this design of mathematical thinking and mathematical modeling, you think it's like pretty elite that those vases has those mathematical design in them. But to be honest, in some cases they have, in some cases they don't have the math design in them. And if you think about this, you will find those mathematical design was purely not academic design. It was more like natural design, because there's no other way to get those curves if they are not resembling any mathematical function. And with your spherical measurements, we are dealing with pi number a lot. So if I'm going to use circle to measure, and I'm using this circular motion to carve or drill with abrasive powder, and I am also measuring with light and those circles and carve something circular like a vase, then you will get a pretty mathematical function with a little error, and you can get pretty crazy close to mathematical model with it. You don't have to know anything about those models and mathematical errors. You will just get there because you want to create something perfect. And perfect means mathematical perfection, because there's nothing more perfect than mathematical perfection till today. Okay? So hardness is okay when you have abrasive powders, and Egyptians in Middle Kingdom and Old Kingdom and Italy Kingdom, they had those abrasive powders. And when you are talking about this mathematical design, then there is no other way when they are using circular motion and circular tools to measure circular things, and you are going to carve a curve which is mathematical function in this picture. And you may also ask me, okay, but how it is possible that we don't find those artifacts later? They didn't do this precise artifact manufacturing later, but we did. We actually did, because you see, in 9th century, but not BC, 9th century, or I mean 1,100 years ago, there was people called Fatimid, and those people carved in crystals, in quartz crystals, with abrasive powders, with abrasive metals. And those creations could be also done with heating of the quartz sand and creating glass vessels. Yes and no, because you see, they could use heat process, but they couldn't carve in those. So they decided to carve in natural quartz crystals. And they did a quite good job of it. And we can find those artifacts in today's museums, and those are artifacts from 1,000 years ago, and nobody cares about those. Well, somebody cares, okay? But mostly people don't care about those. So those guys, Fatimid people, they lived in Egypt, and they also lived in Syria, Israel, Levant, yeah, those places. And those people were like, okay, we have those ancient technique of carving hardstone and crystal, because, well, in Mesopotamia, they carved crystals with the same methods 4,000 years ago. And they used the same technique to deliver us some crazy crystal vessels. And those vessels are quite precise. Yeah. And the same people used those techniques, but in our past, to create mirrors, super mirrors. So yeah, we have accounts of this. So it's nothing like lost technology. It was abandoned because, you see, it is easier to create quartz crystal vessel, which is actually glass, with heat, and we can smelt glass. So their work is astounding, but not practical. You can find those vessels in some king's chambers or vaults or churches, but peasants won't get those. And you need something like easier to do than spend your 2 or 4 years of your life just carving one piece, and you have to study those methods for years in advance to then start working on this masterpiece. Okay? And as you know, an efficient way of thinking is inefficient and it's actually, it's quite easy to assume that people don't do things inefficiently if there's another way of doing the same thing. So if you are lucky enough, you have some glasses in your shelves, and you can go there and drink some coffee from your mugs and glasses, right? And you can also find your wine glasses there, and all of those are made with heat process, smelting glass. But in ancient times, the heating process of glass was carved because glass doesn't like to melt in a low temperature. So they carved natural quartz, and they carved those with zirconia powders, corundum powders, and maybe some diamond powders. I am not sure about diamond powders, but you can do this with diamond powder also because, yeah, it's basic science. And yeah, so we have three mystery out of the window now. So there's the fourth mystery, and this was really hard for me to, and I scratched my head, and it was song point. Because, yeah, some guys in Florida with Ben from Uncharted found those titanium elements infused in those vases, and it was like, wow, we don't know about, we know titanium is a thing now, but it's quite new for our civilization, because titanium is mostly oxide, and the oxide of titanium isn't actually interesting for us. But they found with this physic from Florida raw titanium, elemental titanium, infused in those vases, in the grooves of the tool marks. And they also found elemental iron, which got me scratching my head, because I also heard that there was found iron and titanium in elemental form between granite blocks in pyramids. But those were like very, very small clusters of atoms in those. And you need electron microscopy to even look for them, or spectrometry, talking about spectrometry. So how on earth would our ancestors use titanium when there is no raw titanium, elemental titanium in nature, in other nature? Like, how? Okay, that's the good question, and the answer is pretty interesting, because you see, when you are dealing with corundum crystals, we are talking about rubies, okay? And rubies are red or pink because they have chromium inside. But when we are talking about corundum crystals, there are also different crystals, sapphires. And those sapphires crystals are made of corundum, and they are blue because there are some ion inside, and, wait for it, titanium. So we have titanium in elemental form inside of sapphire crystals. And yeah, it's not oxide. And when you are working with corundum powder, abrasive powder, and you made those powders with rubies, then there will be no titanium or iron in those grooves. And if you used sapphire, then you will find iron and titanium in those grooves. So, conclusion? Ancient Egyptians used sapphire corundum powder to carve those vases. Okay, you may also ask me, hey, but wait a moment. If those corundum crystals contain titanium in elemental form, why those titanium atoms don't like oxygen and don't form oxides. That's because in those crystals there is no oxygen, so yeah. And if this titanium is infused in those grooves, then you see titanium doesn't react with oxygen in low temperatures. And to create titanium oxide, you would need a few hundreds degrees of Celsius out of zero to get this. And there is no high temperatures in those vases or ablations, anything like this. So this titanium stains are secure, and we can find more of those in other vases. That's my guess here. If makers of those vases use sapphires and other corundum blue crystals with titanium inside. Okay, so you can tell me that, well, I didn't prove anything now because there is still a mystery about those 4 microns, okay? We know that there is one vase with 4 microns of accuracy or precision, whatever. And you can also tell me maybe it's fake one, but if it is fake one, then those holes, side holes, would be perfect also, but those aren't. I think we should just gather more data points and consider that maybe there is some miscalculation or not a goodwill in those measurements involved. And if you're looking for ancient lost technology, then at this point, you'll need only some kind of really good bearing or carving stool with low friction behind. And you can also consider that there was some kind of trade mystery going on, and there was some class of those vase makers who knew something and didn't share their knowledge with other peers, which was the case in ancient times and even in medieval times. So that's it. We should also measure those vases again, those precise vases, by different people, by different labs. And we should also gather more data points to get a better picture here. But for now, that's it. It's enough. They could make it. We are told they made those in ancient times. And as you may see, all the data shows us that they could make those in ancient times. Okay? And that's it for today. Thanks for watching. Till we meet again.